welcome back, listeners, to the BizBlend podcast, where business, mindset, and growth intersect in real talk. I'm your host, Sana, as always, and today's episode is one I have been really looking forward to because it speaks to something that's not only good for the planet, but also powerful for business. And joining me is Matthieu Mehuys, who is an award winning author and visionary landscape architect whose journey from a family farm in Belgium to pioneering regenerative farming is a true testament to purpose driven living. From the moment he fell in love with plants as a kid, he has been obsessed with creating spaces that don't just look good, but they do good. And today we are digging into a question, listeners, which I think more businesses need to ask. This is the need of the hour. Can sustainable practices really elevate both profit and planet? Spoiler alert, yes, they can, but not in the way you might think. Well, Matthew's here to share his global journey, the bold leap that transformed his life, and how aligning with nature can actually amplify your impact, not limit it. So, with that, Matthew, welcome to the show, and it's such an honor to have you with us.
Wow, Sana, what a beautiful introduction. I'm very honored, and yeah, thank you for that.
So, Matthew, I mean, it's sustainability and um, having a purpose driven business which equally contributes towards the wellness of the planet, the humanity, the mankind, and the entire planet. I believe this is the need of the hour. But many of us, almost all of us, especially all the entrepreneurs and founders, we uh, may not be thinking about it right now, or maybe not thinking in the right approach. So you have said before that landscape architects, they can change the world. And I love that. So can you talk about that moment you realized your work, your passion is something which can be a vehicle for global environmental impact?
Yeah, Sana, thank you for that question. And to answer that, I always like to go a bit back in history, like you told in the introduction. I was from a very early age. I was very fascinated about how plants grow, and I grew up on a family farm. Still today, my brother and father are farmers, and I'm very blessed about that because we've also transitioned our farm from a industrial conventional farm to a more regenerative practice. And that's been a quite interesting journey. But when I was about 6 years old, I told my parents I want to start gardening. I want to start growing my own food. And after some nagging, finally they said, okay, you can do it. And then I started to grow my first crops. Some things worked, but other things were a complete failure. All of a sudden, my garden was completely overgrown by weeds, and I was devastated by it. So I wanted to understand from that early age, actually, anything. I wanted to understand how it works. So I went on, I studied, I did a bachelor in landscape architecture in Belgium, did a master's in Germany in an international landscape architecture. Uh, I went on to study further on my own. I did a permaculture design course, and then I traveled the world to visit some of the most amazing eco resorts, regenerative farms, and projects across the globe that are related to real estate, farming, gardens, all those things. Pretty much anything that's outdoor space. Um, like how are they making a difference in the world, and how are they able to make it economic? How are they able to make a business out of it? Because end of the day, when you're sustainable and you're just doing it because it's a sustainability, you might just break even. So we need to think beyond sustainability. We have to look at something which is called regenerative. And regenerative means, just like in nature, things always keep growing, they always expand, they're always regenerating on their own. But because of certain impacts that we could say humanity has had on the environment,
Mhm.
it's now, and I think there's nothing wrong with it, because if you look at it, the whole industrial revolution in most countries in the world has enabled to us to not have poverty anymore, or at least have a lot less poverty than, let's say, 200, 300 years ago.
Yeah.
So the whole industrial revolution came with a lot of benefits, but there's one or a few downsides that we are putting a lot of pressure on nature. And when we look at nature, you'd be like, okay, why would it even be important to protect nature? Well, it's everything that makes it possible for us to live on this planet. It's the healthy air, it's the fresh water, it's all these things that enable us to have a healthy life and a fulfilling life, and also mentally to be like healthy. Because if you're in polluted environments, it does have a big effect on your personal health, on your mental health. There's so many impacts that it has. So I think investing in nature has so much benefits other than the fact that you'll be healthier, we create more beautiful environments. There's also a whole other realm of business opportunities that I even think that it will become inevitable to not be like, in a way, you'll have to be regenerative or organic or in harmony with nature, because if you don't, there's a few things that might happen. Either your own government will make it impossible for your business to operate, because many governments across the world, especially in Europe, with the Green Deal, are making it very difficult to have polluting industries. That also comes with a bunch of challenges, and it's maybe not the best solution to solving it, but at least the trend is set. We're going towards a greener future. So as a business, you can be like, oh, I'll just wait and see how it goes. And then when the policies are there, then I'll adapt. But then you're going to lose your competitive edge towards your concurrents. Whereas if you start investing in it now, you'll have returns in it later. So just policies is already one reason. The second reason is that climate change is having such a big impact on our environment, on businesses, anything that we do, that if you can find a business or find an idea or something that helps both to create a better environment and has a positive impact on the people, then you're going to be making money in the future. It's like the most future-proof business in that sense. And then, like, it's policies, climate change, and then also there's a whole paradigm shift that when we're let's say the conventional business models are very exploitative. We take something, we take out resources, and then we sell those resources. It's very materialistic in a way as well, which that's okay. But there's a whole other realm of services and things that people need, such as beautiful gardens, um, regenerative systems, clean energy productions. There's huge demands for this, both because consumers also, and that's the fourth reason why this is important, is that consumers are also starting to be more picky. Like if you're selling anything, it doesn't actually matter if you're selling a laptop or any service. If you can tell your consumers that with every, let's say, laptop that they buy, we're spending $1 to reforestation in Africa, or doesn't matter where. Like that's going to be an additional reason for consumers to buy your laptop. And that's actually happening in a lot of companies. So in that sense, you're creating, you have a competitive edge as well. And it's in, like, let's think about it. A laptop can cost several thousand euros or dollars. When you say I'm going to spend $1 for reforestation, that's peanuts in a way. Okay, that might eat on your margin, but you'll be able to sell more laptops in that sense. So yeah, it's coming in from all angles. Consumers are demanding it. Policymakers are implementing new things that still it's a slow process, but if you're prepared for it in your business, you'll thrive more in the future. There's other reasons that you're gonna be way more profitable on the long term if you invest in it now. And yeah, just to even give you an example, because I'm quite general here, but just to give you an example, in my business as a landscape architect, when I find real estate investors that want to invest in a green environment connected to their buildings, can be public, can be semi-public, then the research is proving that property values can increase by up to 100%. They've done some research in the US that they have two communities, they have exactly the same location, exactly the same accessibility to schools, buses, other public services. They're identical in that sense. But one community decided 20 years ago to invest in a really diverse green space. So not just a few trees, but also community gardens, beautiful flowers, all like really high biodiversity environments. And the other neighborhoods just decided we're just going to put some grass and some trees. That's it. Now, today, 20 years later, the property that invested in nature, which at the time that, and it's a really low investment if you look at it, that has enabled those properties to be worth double of what the other neighborhoods are, which didn't care about creating a beautiful environment. And that relates back that we as humans, we're all part of nature. We came from nature. Throughout the Industrial Revolution, we kind of got a little bit disconnected from nature. But everybody knows that when you spend time in nature, you just feel better. So why not create it in your direct environment? Why do you need to hike around the world to be in touch with nature if you could actually have it in your backyard as well, by starting to garden or by starting to grow some of your own food or creating a community garden in your neighborhoods?
I think, I mean, that's such a detailed, I think, explanation on the importance of uh, addressing on this sustainability or you know, practices, business practices, or individual practices which are planet friendly. But as you mentioned about the real estate opportunities cropping up, increasing with the ones who have already invested into creating green spaces. The irony here is that even if we are born from nature, we die and we get into the nature. Everything we do or we are, it's all nature related. The irony here is that, it comes with a cost. When you have taken up so much from the planet and, and you have completely kind of destroyed the balance there, it is really, really ironical to see that, you have to kind of now buy something or put your money to get access to what you actually deserve. So that is one takeaway which I can take. And secondly, I think people individually are becoming more conscious because, as you mentioned, that there are many cities across the world who are not having access to clean air, breathable air, clean water. And that's why it's individually affecting their health, their mental health. And that's why that conscious level is increasing. And, and it's really very important for the present generation and the upcoming future generations to completely get invested into this. So that's my insight on
Yeah,
where
I agree.
shared.
Very well put.
Okay, so let's talk about the business part here, Matthew. So from a business standpoint, many people still view sustainability as a cost rather than a value creator. Although there is uh, I mean, a value there invested, emotional value, a sense of responsibility, sense of collective belonging. But still, many people they view it as a cost. So, what are some ways you have seen eco-conscious design lead to economic or strategic gains for your clients?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question, Sana. I think to answer that, we have to look at even what sustainability means. When you look at even the definition of sustainability, it means to sustain is to keep doing the same or at least not do worse. So a lot of the paradigm has become like, okay, we have to stop or cap the greenhouse emissions. We have to reduce emissions. We have to. That's kind of the paradigm of sustainability, and that is perceived as a cost because it actually is a cost. Like if you just look at like, oh no, we have to think about sustainability, and all policymakers are putting more pressure on us to be more sustainable, yeah, then it's gonna become a cost, because it's something like, it's like a checklist that you have to go through and you have to do it. And then it's like, yeah, you have to hire someone to look into it. You have to, like, it's, in that sense, it becomes really a cost. But in order to not make it a cost, we have to look at it as an opportunity and think beyond sustainability. And we have to think like, okay, if we anyways need to, for example, you are a factory in any country pretty much, and regulations start to say like, oh, you have to invest more in creating a more green, a better green space with your leftover spaces. Now you could think, okay, shit, I have to invest in this, and it's going to be a cost for my product to be produced. And it might be, but there's an opportunity to change that idea and say like, okay, how can I create this green space, and how can I also make it an asset to my business? So we come in a lot of company rebuilding of existing companies or factories, and we say, okay, what other business opportunities can we connect to a reorganization of an existing business or a factory? Okay, let's think, what is a demand? People want to have more experiences in nature. And as it turns out, we actually have quite a lot of leftover space that it's not suitable to build on, or we're not allowed to build on it from a permission standpoint. So let's make it into a park, a venue place, something unique that we can attract visitors. And we can even have, with our team, when the weather is good, we can have outdoor meetings, which will elevate the mood of our team. Instead of sitting when the weather is good, instead of sitting in a dark boardroom with artificial light, let's go and sit outside. Let's bring our laptops or our notebooks, and let's do a brainstorm. And you'll see that will have a direct impact on your team. You'll be more productive. You'll have better ideas, and that's a way. Okay, it's not a direct monetization, but then if you have invested in that outdoor venue place, or even you could put a greenhouse, grow some food there. Not, it doesn't even have to be like a full-on production, but again, there you'll have some food for the people that work on your factory. In lunch break, they can pick their own tomatoes. That's another way. And then the best way to actually monetize on it is that now your factory has this beautiful garden and unique green space, but during the weekend or in the evening, your factory is empty, or it's not operating at full capacity. So now you can rent out these spaces for example, weddings, because it's so unique and you've created something that is so beautiful that you can even earn money in the weekend by renting it out for a wedding, or for other business meetings, or related things that are related to event space.
Conferences.
So there's so many opportunities when we stop thinking like, oh, we like the main idea was, oh, okay, we need to have more green space and higher biodiversity because the government is forcing us to, or our consumers are asking it, or we just want to create something unique. Okay, you could just do that, plant some trees, and it would be great already. But let's think even further, think ahead, think beyond the limitations, and let's create something that is also going to require a bit more of investment by hiring a good designer, someone that knows how to optimize an outdoor space. And then you can use that for other opportunities. Even so, there's a beautiful example of Ferrari, the cars in Italy back in the 60s, 70s, or 90s, I'm not sure. They built a whole new factory, and instead of making it like purely buildings, they made the factory in such a way that they could always open the walls of the factory, and they had inside the factory small pocket gardens inside of the building. So that, first of all, elevated the mood of the people that were working at the company. Second of all, it had a really positive impact. That's one of the main reasons they did it, is because the paint of the cars now started to dry better, because you create a nice environment, and these paintings are super expensive, of course. So with the help of the plants, there was a better way that the paint would dry, or that it had some positive impact on making the cars even more beautiful. So that's another example from a famous brand like Ferrari, how they incorporate nature and make it an asset rather than something to tick, like something to do.
Mm.
You understand what we are getting at if we're thinking outside of the box.
Absolutely, absolutely. Especially, I loved that idea which you mentioned about, factories who are setting up green spaces or eco zones. They can create this beautiful landscaped spaces, and then when they are maybe are not operational, fully operational, they can rent it out for conferences or weddings or events. I think that's such
They
a
might even
creative
make more money from that than from
solution.
their factory if they're struggling.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. That's such a good idea, and yeah, I mean it is equi equally relevant in the business context as well as in the sustainability context. So that's really a great idea. Great idea. Um, Also, mm, what kind of common threads? I mean, because you have traveled the world working on stunning gardens and innovative projects, what are some common threads you have noticed between the most successful sustainable spaces?
Well, that's a very good question.
Mhm.
The most successful projects that I visited had a very clear intention from the beginning on to be very profitable and to move away from the paradigm. Okay, when we're doing something for nature, it should be either for free or should be like a charity or something like that. Because there's also another paradigm that, yeah, it's similar to the one where nature, doing something for nature becomes a cost. There's another paradigm where we see like, okay, everything that has to do with nature, nature development, it should be either for free or it should be like a charity or that, and that is completely, it's not wrong. There's definitely space for that, and I think it's important to invest taxpayer money in nature because it's providing the ecosystem services. So we should definitely also focus on like conserving existing forests, pristine landscape. That there's no doubt about it. And there's been a lot of great efforts in many countries. Just like India has really a good reputation of conserving their natural pristine landscapes. But at the same time, when you start a project and you move away from like, I'm just gonna create something that is break even because I'm working with nature. No, let's change that. Let's be like, okay, we're investing in nature because it will make our business way more profitable. And that's our biggest asset. And that in a way that is the biggest asset because end of the day, what do people want to do and experience? Okay, maybe you want to go to the cinema and go have coffee in the weekend. But there's a huge trend everywhere in the world as we are moving away from the purely industrialized society to we want to reconnect with nature. So you can definitely capitalize on that. And there's so many projects related to ecotourism. Um, you need even I see huge opportunities for India to create something that like why do people come to India? It's the culture. It's it's something so unique. It has so many traditions, but at the same time you have this huge asset which is called nature. How can people experience that more when they come to visit to India or pretty much any country in the world? Because every country or every region has its unique um, variety of plants and gardens. So that I think is the common thread that I saw in projects that were successful. We were like, okay, we're not here to do something charity work. And again, I'm not against charity. There's definitely a place for that, and it has to happen. But if you really want to be long-term successful from day one, or actually in your business planning, you have to be aiming for profit. There's no way around it because then it becomes something that is beyond sustainability. Again, related to the word sustainability is just, you could say that sustainability, when you follow purely sustainability, you'll end up having a business that breaks even. It's not bad, but it's not really promising for the future because you don't have much space for some difficult moments. Whereas when you focus on a regenerative business, the goal is to make more profit, and that is, I think, a very important distinction to be made.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree. And um, going back to one uh, insight you shared on the marketing part, consumers are now more driven towards purchasing products or services, or connecting with brands who are uh, you know planet conscious, and they're contributing to reduce the greenhouse emissions or something like that. So there is something called as greenwashing. Recently there were a few countries who have just recently, I mean, they've decided to impose penalties as well on companies who are kind of greenwashing, who are kind of misleading, putting out misleading messages or ads,
Yeah.
just to kind of market that they are conscious, environmentally conscious, but it's something else. So, in your view, Matthew, where's that line between genuine sustainable impact and marketing spin? I mean, how can businesses stay rooted in integrity while still telling a compelling story to the consumers?
Very good question, and it's a very difficult one to answer because maybe that it's not so much fixed. It's probably like a spectrum, but I
Mhm.
think you can somehow feel it if people are doing it from integrity, or if they're just using it as a marketing tool. And even if they're just using it as a marketing tool and they're actually doing it, as long as they're not um, saying that they spent money on reforestation and then they don't, which that should definitely be penalized, as you say, it's happening, which is a good thing. There should be some regulation around that. But if they're doing it, and even if it's minimal and they're using it as a marketing tool, I'm totally fine with that because it's already going to have an impact. And so, yeah, we have to be a bit skeptical around greenwashing. Okay, like let's say that you have a business that is completely polluting the planet with the way they're producing, and then you say, I'm
Yeah.
planting one tree for every, I don't know, laptop that you buy, but at the same time you're polluting a local river, then
Mhm.
that doesn't make any sense. Like, first make sure that your production plant is green or clean before screaming out loud that you are planting trees. And even if they're doing that, I think that in some businesses it can be very hard to be like, okay, we've have 100 years of polluting behind us. Now we do want to make a different. We do want to make a change, but we can't change our complete production from today to tomorrow. It's impossible. It's the same with farming. Many industries that we are dependent on can't just change their business model from today to tomorrow. There has to be a transition.
Yeah.
So if they are setting out a vision and they're having like ways that they can show that every year they're becoming a little bit better at the production, they're becoming a little bit more greener, and then that, I think, is also already a big improvement. So I think it has to be looked at from case to case, and I think it's also
Mm.
good for businesses that are maybe stuck in a way that they've been producing things to also get expert advice that can be very like in a way that can be very economic. It's not like if you get someone on board that is a specialist in creating regenerative businesses. I actually partner with with a friend of mine.
Mhm.
I call him my beautiful mind, and he's this guy who's also a nature enthusiast. He says that yeah, everything is nature, or we creating design for nature or by nature. And
Mhm.
he's the kind of guy that comes into a company and looks at all the blind spots of, okay, that's not working, this is not working. And the company sees no way that they could become greener or better. And then he comes up with all of these crazy ideas that nobody has ever thought about. And in that way, they can become more profitable. immediately and make the transition towards a greener future. So you just need some people that are visionary, that have great ideas. You should listen to them. You obviously have to be skeptical and make sure that like it's something that is feasible for your company. And that's how you can, you have to find the right experts. Not everybody does that. Some experts they are still stuck in the sustainability way of like, oh, you have to do this checklist here, checklist there. So you need to be careful, and you have to find the right experts that can really help you to make a transition that is also more profitable. Because I also believe like if you can't make it more profitable,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not tomorrow, but in the next 10 to 20 years, if the transition is not going to make you more profitable, you shouldn't do it. Maybe it's then time to close that kind of business, or
Yeah.
find a better solution. Because if we're not going to make this transition into creating a greener future more profitable, it's not going to last. It's just going to be like with the next crisis, and it's happening now. A lot of companies that were in we're having a bit of an economic crisis. So now the first thing that they will abolish is those green agreements that they made in this, like becoming more
Yeah.
sustainable. As it becomes tougher economically, these are the first things that they will stop doing. Whereas if you have a business where you know that because I'm using nature to my advantage, and that's actually making me more profitable in times that are difficult, like now, they won't stop investing in nature. In fact, they will become more profitable than their competitors, and they will keep investing more in nature-based solutions. So in that way, I'm very optimistic for the future. We just need to have like the right people, the right engineers, the right people that can execute those ideas. Yeah, because the solutions are all already there. Yeah.
Mm. That's definitely such a practical, uh, you know, perspective to this, because a very generic approach is being followed, as you mentioned. Most of the experts, they just go through a checklist and that's it.
Yes.
These are
And even another idea that I want
Mm.
to share, as I think
Mhm.
about it, I have another. Well, that friend that I talked about, he's working on a project now. It becomes also very interesting how we can integrate technology, AI, robotics, all of these things with nature. So he's working on a project that inside a company they will invest in creating a huge planetarium. So inside a company they will build a lot of green plants, and then what they will do, it's an office, but again in weekend the office is empty, and then what they will do, they will use the office as a VA, or a augmented reality space. So now everybody can wear these Google glasses and walk across this field, and they'll see like they can gamify even though that natural environment. There will be like something to do in the nature or discover, or it'll be like the plants with the augmented reality that will create something very unique. And people are paying huge amounts of money. Well, people are paying a lot for that. So this office that is sitting empty on the weekend, or even as more and more people are working from home, um, you can use that space for other events related to something fun, experiential, or again renting it out for other business meetings or other companies. So huge opportunities in investing in nature.
And it's such a beautiful intersection of business and sustainability. Once again, such a beautiful intersection, intelligent intersection, rather.
Exactly.
Ah, great, Matthew. So before we wrap up this absolutely brilliant conversation, if our listeners would like to connect with you to get more and more ideas, like these innovative ideas, and explore more and more, you know, uh, idea about the work you are doing, how they can do that.
Yeah, you can find me if you Google my name. You'll find me on most of the social media platforms. And if you feel like you want to take immediate action, you can always send me an email under my name, Matthieu.Mehuys@gmail.com. You can just send me an email. I'll be me or my team will be more than happy to look into your project and see if there's a way that we can collaborate so you can create a more profitable business for the future by leveraging nature.
Lovely. I'll have all the links and details mentioned in the show notes. And Matthew, thank you so much for sharing your heart, your journey, your wisdom, beautiful ideas, and of course, your mission, your vision with all of us.
Dana, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much for your brilliant questions. I think you asked some very interesting and questions that I really had to think about. So thank you for that as well.
Listeners, wow, what a powerful reminder and what a relief as a business person that we don't have to choose between doing good for the planet and then building something impactful and profitable. So, if you are feeling inspired to bring more regeneration and beauty, creativity into your business, or even just your backyard, definitely check out Matthew's work. You can find all the links in the show notes. And as always, if you loved this episode, share it with someone who is building with purpose. Let's keep growing together. Until next time, stay bold, stay grounded, and keep blending purpose with business.